Hello there, and welcome to today's episode of the Easy EdTech Podcast. My name is Monica Burns, and I am so glad that you're here to join me today. If you want to make the most of education technology, aka EdTech, well, you are in the right place. My goal has always been to help make EdTech easier and give you ideas you can try yourself, share with a colleague, or bookmark for later in the school year. Every Tuesday here on the Easy EdTech Podcast, you'll hear stories from my time in the classroom, the work I do now with schools and districts, and my travels to different EdTech events. Get ready for solo episodes where I share some quick tips and stories, and interviews full of practical ideas and stories from new guests each month. If we mention something you'd like to check out, make sure to click the link. You'll find it in the episode description or the summary area where you're listening to this podcast, or you can find every episode and all of the resources we mention by going to classtechtips.com/podcast, or by going to classtechtips.com and just clicking on the Easy EdTech Podcast button at the top of the page. This episode is sponsored by the free stuff page on my website, classtechtips.com. This is where you'll find free weekly planner pages, graphic organizers, ebooks, and more. Just head to classtechtips.com and press the free stuff button at the top of the page to find lots of free downloads for you and your colleagues. That's classtechtips.com and press the free stuff button at the top of the page. This week's episode is titled Teacher Tips for AI Music with Lesson Ideas to Try. If you've thought about using AI music this school year, then you are in the right place. And if you aren't quite sure what AI music is or how to generate music with AI, then you are in the right place too. This past summer, I spent time with teachers in all corners of the country. In my workshops and conference sessions, we explore the role of AI, and one of the most popular topics is how to make music with the help of artificial intelligence. So whether you're looking to spark some creativity or enhance a traditional learning experience, or maybe just simply introduce something new, some new media to your lessons, AI-generated music may be worth exploring. It just might have a place in your teaching toolkit. So similar to a chatbot like ChatGPT or Gemini, you add a prompt or description to an AI music tool. Then it generates a short piece of music to share with students or whoever you want to share it with based on that prompt. So in today's episode, I'm going to take you through some really, I think they're pretty practical ways to incorporate AI music, things that you might do even though the idea of, the AI of it all might seem a little flashy in certain use cases. I really think these are practical ways to try it out and see what you can bring to your classroom. I know that your wheels will start spinning once I get started with these ideas, and so many of you have been kind enough to come up and say hello if we're at the same conference, or if you're on a webinar, you tell me you listen to the podcast. So if you're listening and your wheels start spinning on this topic, definitely send a message my way, whether it's an email, replying to my newsletter, or even finding me on Instagram. I'm always curious at which strategy resonates with you, particularly on a day like today when I give you a handful of favorites. Now, AI music tools are more accessible than ever before. Some of them are completely free, sort of free, like a free trial or freemium, and some you have to pay for. They can help you create almost like a soundtrack for literary works. You can create music that goes along with historical events, different musical moods you might want to incorporate in those conversations, and it can really help kids develop a deep connection to the material. So there's a few AI tools that I've shared if you've joined me live for an event, and I'm going to mention 3 and I'll link out to them. That way you can find them pretty easily. So if you're listening to this, say on Spotify, you'll see the link to the show notes notes. If you are on my blog listening to this, you'll see it right where you're listening to this episode. So there's a couple places to find it. You can always shoot me a message if you are struggling to find something in the show notes. But the first one on the list is Music FX. This is a tool from Google's AI Test Kitchen, and I've been playing around with this a lot for the past year or so. You can type in a prompt and then add in even what kind of instruments you want to hear. And the output, just like a chat GPT gives you text typically, the output here are two 30-second clips that you can play. You can download them or you can share them with a link. The next one is Suno AI. After you sign up for a free account, you can describe the song you'd like it to generate. New users, well, they get a few credits to try, so you should be able to craft a song right away the very first time you do it. And the last one is Loudly. Loudly gives you a free version to try, and you can write a prompt up to 250 characters. That should get you covered, and it'll give you 3 outputs based on your description. So not all of these are student-friendly tools, and these are the kind of things where you might have kids create a prompt and then submit the prompt to you, and then you create AI music clip if you want them to be part of the creative process, or you might just work behind the scenes to create some music, mention to kids that you used AI, and then share it and move on with your day. So if you're wondering where this might fit into your day-to-day or why you might use music in the classroom in general, even without AI, we know that it has a powerful way to connect students to content. You know, a lot has changed since I was a student when a teacher might use a cassette tape to play a clip for our class. And it's definitely easier than ever, even from my days in the classroom, to cue the music, you know, and press play on a smartphone or computer, interactive whiteboard or tablet. And it can help set the tone for what you're about to work on, can help kids make connections and really spark conversations. So, you know, if you're coming to this with a science hat on, you might use music to complement the explanation of complex theories. If you have a social studies hat on today, you might use this to enhance lessons on historical periods where you want to integrate music that connects back to that time or that part of the world. In a math classroom, rhythm and beats can help illustrate patterns and sequences and abstract concepts. And in an ELA or English language arts classroom, music could set the tone for a creative writing experience or help kids analyze the emotional subtext of a piece of literature. So many directions to take this in. So let's get into a list. I've got a handful of these ways to use AI music to share with you. And like I mentioned earlier, you can use this when you are working in lots of different environments, customize these ideas, and of course, find everything on the show notes for this episode if you want to share it with a colleague. So first up is to practice writing prompts. You can challenge students to create descriptive writing prompts, and then you use AI to generate music based on their descriptions. This is an exercise that can really help them enhance their descriptive writing skills and connect to any subject area. You could even take a spin on this and have kids guess the prompt that you use to craft a piece of music, even though they probably won't get it to match perfectly. It's a great way to spark conversations on creative or descriptive writing. The next reason or way to use AI music in your classroom is that it's an opportunity to explore different types of AI. If you're modeling AI use for students, you can show them how you can experiment with AI tools and produce not just text, but music and sound effects and more. And so this can help them understand that there are a variety of outputs for AI and maybe even connect back to some of your information or digital literacy goals this year. The next way is to use music inspired by literature. You could ask students to write a prompt to describe a scene from a story. Then you can use that prompt to create a clip using AI music tools. This can really deepen their interpretive skills, help them express their understanding of narrative through music, push them to lift a line from the text to support their writing, or it may be an opportunity for you to create something that connects back to literature you're reading together and have kids make connections between what you've created and what they're reading. Next up is to describe a historical event, and you can use AI music tools to spark a conversation about a historical event. You might have kids describe that event and generate a prompt that might make some music that reflects the mood or tone. You could try this in Suno, you could try this in Loudly. I have a screenshot that I'll link out to you in the show notes. That is one where I did it to describe the Boston Tea Party. So that might be something that you want to try as well. Next up is to create background music. You or students can write a prompt or select AI-generated music to kick off a live presentation. So if they are going to present on a topic, they might say, this is the kind of music that I want to set the stage for my opening slide. You can create that music alongside of them, and it's a way to set the tone as they share information really on any subject area. Now, I've got two more for you on the list, but so far, in addition to looking at those three tools, MusicFX, Suno AI, and Loudly, we've looked at a few ways to use AI music. Practice writing prompts or guess the prompt, explore different AI, write or find music inspired by literature, describing a historical event, creating background music to set the tone, and next up is to make a STEM connection. I talked with Dr. JC Maslick on an episode of the podcast last year, and it's all, I say last year almost like a question because I'm double checking here. Yeah, this was in 2024. No, so earlier this year, my goodness. So in April, I knew I wanted to double check on my little note there that I put here. And that episode was titled Unexpected Ways to Connect Literacy and STEM. It was lots of fun, episode 264. And so if you're making a STEM connection, you could create some music with MusicFX, turn the words into the prompt, into individual elements that kind of mirror a drag and drop coding platform. So MusicFX goes beyond just like a sentence like you might put in the other two and gives you more of like a drag and drop feel. So kind of like a musical connection to coding. And so for this last one, we can also, connect to a best practice that might be part of your regular routine, which is reflection. So we often ask kids to reflect on their learning experiences, to share how they feel after a lesson. And you could take a spin on this and have kids write a prompt to create a short AI music generated clip that relates back to how they feel. And, there's so many things that you could do here to really make this your own. As I mentioned earlier in the post, this is something where you might use AI just for instructional planning, right? Just for you. That's really what I've been speaking a lot about this year in my travels. And bringing these kind of customized musical clips into your classroom is just so much easier than we could have ever imagined for all of the ways that we've looked at today and so many more that I'm sure you can think up related to your environment. Of course, you can bring kids into the musical creation by having them create prompts, even if they're not interacting one-on-one with the music generator. So if you're looking to dive deeper into using AI, my new edition of EdTech Essentials, this one is EdTech Essentials 12 Strategies for Every Classroom in the Age of AI, came out this June, and it includes lots of AI connections. So plenty of things in there. And if you've already got a copy of the book, make sure to send me a message and I'll get you a link to the free study guide. Now, let's finish up this episode like we always do with a few key points from this episode to make this EdTech easy. Explore AI music tools to generate music based on prompts. Use AI-generated music to enhance lessons across all subject areas. Spark creativity by having kids write descriptive prompts to create their own music. And use AI music to set the mood from background presentations to student reflections. Remember, you can find the show notes and full list of resources from today's episode by heading to classtechtips.com/podcast and finding number 291. This episode is sponsored by the free stuff page on my website, classtechtips.com. This is where you'll find free weekly planner pages, graphic organizers, ebooks, and more. Just head to classtechtips.com and press the free stuff button at the top of the page to find lots of free downloads for you and your colleagues. That's classtechtips.com and press the free stuff button at the top of the page. Thank you for listening to this new episode of the Easy EdTech podcast. I love creating new episodes for you each week, but I could use a bit of help spreading the word about the podcast. Can you leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app? Spotify will let you tap on the stars, and Apple Podcasts will let you tap on the stars and leave a 1 or 2 sentence review. Thank you so much for taking this extra step. It helps other educators find episodes like this one when they're searching for EdTech tips.